welcome to part 5 of Call and Response Groove, my last video of my 5-video series for TrueFire's 2015 Next Top Guitar Instructor competition. As you know, if you've been following along, that you can check out the video, and the link is below the video. You can cast your vote once a week, and we're getting down to, this is probably the second to last week for voting for the public. You can vote once a week. So I hope that you'll check this out and you'll cast your vote at the end of the video if you deem me worthy. So what I'm going to be covering today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about incorporating slide into the call and response groove. What you'll find is that I have a 12-bar progression in a key of E, and I've been really focused on working primarily around E minor through the first 4 videos. And today I want you to know that the chords in particular, the 1, 4, 5 chords, are actually just going to be power chords. So with that said, we'll be working with E5 power chord, which is combining the E and B notes together in the call riff. The A5 power chord, which is combining the A and the E notes together to build your A5 power chord. And then your B5 power chord, which is combining B and F sharp together to build your B5 power chord. So those are the 3 chords that will be your 1, 4, 5 chords in 12-bar progression. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. What you're going to be doing on the 1-chord call riff, it's going to sound like this. So basically what you have 1, 2, 3, and. And then on the and of 4 is when your response riff or lick is going to begin. So I'm going to play it slow and break it down and tell you what's going on for the call. So for the call for the 1 chord for E, you're playing the 6-string open, and then you're taking your slide and you're placing it at the 9th fret on the 4th and 3rd strings. Okay, so that gives you a B and an E. Alright, then what's going to happen, you're going to move your slide to the 7th fret on the 4th and 3rd strings, drop it down a whole step, that gives you an A and a D, and from there, you're sliding back up to the 9th fret on the 4th and 3rd strings. That's it. That's your call riff. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and rest. 1, 2, 3, and rest. So you hear me sliding back up from the 7th fret to the 9th fret. 1, 2, 3, and that's occurring on a 3rd beat. So that's your 1-chord call riff. Now your 4-chord call riff, working over A, you're starting on the 5th string open, which is an A, and then your slide is fretting the 2nd fret on the 4th and 3rd strings. That's actually an E and an A. So that's happening on the 2nd beat. And then you play after that, you play your 4th and 3rd strings open, D and G, and then you're sliding into the 2nd fret on the 4th and 3rd strings, which puts you back on E and A. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's your 4-chord call. Now your 5-chord call is going to take us up the neck to the 7th fret. Your slide is fretting the 7th fret on the 6th string, which is a B. Then it's going to go to the 9th fret on the 5th and 4th strings, which gives you an F sharp and a B. Then it's going to drop down a whole step to the 7th fret on 5th and 4th strings, E and A. You're going to play that and slide back up to the 9th fret. So it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's your 5-chord call. Onto the licks. With the response part of this, pretty much throughout the 12 bars, excluding the 11th measure to take us out on the 1 chord, which is actually, I'm just going to do a lick to get us out of the 11th and 12th measures of this progression. Everything prior to that and every other measure, be it 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 8th measures, is going to be your response lick. And I've basically derived the licks, constructed the licks using the scales I've talked about in this series. So you'll find that the first lick will be working around E minor pentatonic, The second lick, you'll hear the blues scale, the E blues scale incorporated. The third lick, you'll get a little more of the blues scale in there. And the fourth lick, let's see, the fourth lick is once again going to be E minor pentatonic, and then your fifth lick, which will be working over your 5 chord, is basically going to be using the notes in an E natural minor scale. So, okay, so let's start looking at these licks and breaking them down. Lick number 1. This is going to follow in a second measure, working over the 1 chord. And what it's doing is starting on the and of 4, we're going to start by fretting the 8th fret with our slide on the 2nd string, which is a G. Okay, so that's the and of 4. It's ringing through the beginning of 1 of the second measure. From there, moving to the 9th fret on the 2nd string, which is the E, going back to the 8th fret on the 2nd string, which is a G. It's going to slide to the 10th fret, which is A on the 2nd string. Then it's going to slide to the 12th fret on the 2nd string, which is a B. We're going to fret the 10th fret on the 1st string, D, and then back to where we started on G at the 8th fret, 2nd string. You'll also notice in the printout below, which, definitely print it out and have it out as I'm talking you through this lesson. You'll see little wavy lines written above the notation and in the tablature, and that stands for vibrato. That's a symbol for vibrato, and so that's where you get the. It gives a little more emphasis on the note, accentuates it. So you want to be mindful of that because that will really enhance these licks, these phrases, and you're also going to encounter it in the call riffs as well. So lick number 1 is going to sound like this. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I'll put it together with the call prior to it. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4. Lick number 1 in the 4th measure. Still focused on the 1 chord. We're starting at the 9th fret on the 3rd string. We're sliding down to the 7th fret on the 3rd string, which is a D. Then we're going to the 9th fret on the 4th string, B. 8th fret on the 4th string, B flat. 7th fret on the 4th string, A. We're going to slide up to the 9th fret, B on the 4th string. Down to the 5th fret on the 4th string, which is G. That's going to sound like this. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you hear a tie coming from, we start on the end of 4 and you hear the tie ringing through the first half of 1 and your second note of the lick falling on the and of 1. Now I'll put the call before it to lead us in. Still the 1 chord call. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Lick in the 6th measure. This follows the 4 chord B working over A. The way you put the lick together, you're starting at the 10th fret on the 1st string, which is a D. And from there, you're going to the sliding down to the 8th fret on the 1st string, which is C. 10th fret on the 2nd string, A. Back to 8th fret on the 1st string, C. 10th fret on the 1st string, D. 11th fret on the 1st string, D sharp. And then 12th fret on the 1st string, which is E. So if I put it together, I've got 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you hear me sliding into the beginning of 3. You hear me sliding down from the tie on the beginning of 1 onto the end of 1. So I'm going to put it together with my 4 chord call. I've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 4-chord. Measure 8, we're starting at the 12th fret on the first string, which is a E. It's tied to the beginning of 1, sliding down to 10th fret on the first string, which is a D. 12th fret, second string B. 10th fret, first string D, tied. Sliding up to 12th fret on the first string E. Sliding up to 15th fret, first string, which is a G. When you put it together, just the lick, it'll sound like this. 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So you hear a tie on the beginning of 1, and then you hear a tie on the beginning of 3. Now, if I go ahead and join it together with the call that happens before it, remember the call will be from the 1 chord. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and tie, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and tie, and 4. Okay, on to the 5 response. It places us on B. So just looking at the lick, what you're doing, you're fretting the 7th fret on the second and first strings with your slide. You're going to see a lot of vibrato in this measure, so you want to pay attention to where the vibrato falls, where it falls in the count of this phrase. And all you're doing, you're remaining at the 7th fret on the second and first strings, which is actually an F sharp and a B. So it's actually the 2 notes that technically make up the B5 power chord. Alright, so what we have here, just the lick, we've got 4, and tie, and 2, and 3, and 4, and you hear me moving the slide just subtly back and forth to build the vibrato. So I've got 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and now I'll put it together with the call lick. Remember the 5-chord call lick B. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and that's your 5-chord lick. So what we have left is the 11th and 12th measures. And I really didn't use the call riff for the 1 chord in this. I'm just kind of taking us out with a little outro lick. So the way the outro lick is going to work, remember, this is resolving back to the 1 chord, your E5 chord. We've got the 6th string open, E, 12th fret, first string, which is an E, sliding down to 10th fret, first string, which is a D, 12th fret, second string, B, 10th fret, second string A, sliding back up to the B at the 12th fret, second string, 10th fret, first string, D, G at the 8th fret, second string, and then resolving to the 9th fret on the 3rd string, which is E. So when I put the lick together for your last 2 measures, you have 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you have it. Pay attention to where the vibrato is indicated. Pay attention to where the slant lines are in the notation and in the tablature to show you where you're actually sliding with your slide. A little bit about how I use a slide. Over the years, I've experimented with it in terms of what finger I have it on when I play. I actually originally started out with it on my ring finger. As you can see today that I'm in this video, I'm using it on my pinky, and I've actually used it on my pinky now for quite a while. It's been many years now that I've just resolved that I'm going to use it with my pinky. It enables me to do a lot of chords and transitioning back and forth between playing rhythm and chords and playing single slide lines. So that's something I encourage you to experiment with, as well as I encourage you to experiment with types of slides, be it a glass slide, be it a chrome slide, a brass slide, a ceramic slide. You should play around the different types because it certainly impacts your overall tonal quality. With a slide, have it a little loose on your finger. You don't want it snug, at least that's kind of been my preference over the years. I always encourage my students to not have it super loose, but just a little loose. And remember that you know, using a slide, I'm not really getting in depth in this lesson about how, you know, to apply slide and really getting, you know, in depth about slide technique. But remember, when you fret a note with the slide, you're literally right on top of the fret, and you're not putting the full weight of the slide, the full force against the fret, but you're just kind of holding some of the weight with your hand and letting it rest lightly on top of the fret. And that's a technique that it takes time to finesse and develop. I'm in standard tuning, which is obvious. A lot of players, when they first start playing slides, start out in open tunings. I think that's a wonderful, you know, thing to do. It varies from player to player. I started out in standard tuning, and it actually wasn't until many years later that I started applying it to open tunings. Go figure, I did it backwards. But think about that as well. Slide can be a lot of fun, but you have to have patience, as you do with everything you do on the guitar. No matter what technique you're learning, you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, every little thing you do, you have to be patient with yourself. It all takes time. So, thank you for watching. This concludes a 5-part series. Please remember the link below. Please remember to vote for me. I greatly appreciate it. Congratulations to all the finalists that made it to 2015 TrueFire's Next Top Guitar Instructor competition. Very talented guys that are in this finals with me. So, please check out the link at the end of this video, my website. If you want to get in touch with me, just reach out to me. Go to my website and grab my email and fire away. Send me an email. I'd be happy to chat it up with you and interact. Any questions about anything I've shared with you in these 5 videos, once again, don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks so much. I'm Lisa Lim.